The top stories tonight in Y News. Partido Reporma is now backing the bid of Vice President Leni Robredo for president after Senator Pantaleon Alvarez confirmed he was resigning from the party.
Significant number of workers in the business process outsourcing sector are considering leaving their jobs after the government ordered a return to on-site duties starting next month.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority will be implementing a 2-week dry run that would allow provincial buses along the stretch of EDSA.
Moderna plans to seek emergency use authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for its COVID-19 vaccine in children under the age of 6.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, March 24, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am Maria Latoza.
First in the news, Partido para sa Demokratikong Reporma is now supporting the presidential candidacy of Vice President Leni Robredo. This was after Senator Pantaleon Alvarez announces his resignation as member and chairman of the party. Irene Sarudo reports.
Davao del Norte Representative and Partido Reporma President Pantaleon Alvarez made the announcement to support Vice President Leni Robredo in her presidential bid.
We need a leader, and for the 2022 presidential elections, given all these considerations and the crisis we have to overcome, that leader is a woman. Her name is Leni Robredo.
Alvarez said he was not able to personally talk with Senator Pantaleon Alvarez but has relayed his message via text. Lacson announced his resignation as chairman of Partido Reporma earlier today.
Today, I officially announce my resignation as chairman and member of Partido Demokratikong Reporma, which effectively makes me an independent candidate for the presidency in the upcoming May 2022 elections.
The endorsement of Alvarez seemed contradictory with his previous criticisms against Robredo after she called on the Duterte administration's war on drugs. He previously had plans to file an impeachment complaint against the vice president after she sent a video message to the United Nations condemning the war on drugs.
Aminin ko, naging nagkikritik din ako kay Vice President. Marami rin ako nasabi dito maganda at humihingi ako ng tawag ma'am. Para sa akin, personal, bakit nakapagpasya akong sumuporta kay Leni Robredo? Ito yun. Ang unang laban na sinabihan ko noong dekada 80. Nasa Ateneo Law School ako noon. At naalala ko pa rin, sumasama kami sa mga marcha-marcha doon sa kalye para tuldukan ang rehimeng diktadurang Marcos. Kaya para sa akin, gusto ko lang tuloy yung laban, yung unang laban na sinabihan ko, itutuloy ko sa pangalawang laban na ito. Marcos versus Leni.
Robredo, meanwhile, is grateful for the endorsement from Partido Demokratiko.
Una-una, Speaker, you do not need to apologize. Kasi over the course of our service naman to the country, meron mga bagay na hindi talaga pagkakasunduan. Hindi na yung mga magkakampi, hindi naman expected na nakakasundo sa lahat ng bagay. Pero kami wala naman kaming personal. Wala sa aming personal na disagreement. Bukas ako sa lahat, as long as nagkakaisa ang aming hangarin para ayusin yung ating bansa.
The Commission on Elections, however, said the ballots will still bear the name of Lacson with his previous party.
Whatever is your party at the time of the filing of the candidacy stays. Your CONA stays. Whatever change in your affiliation after the filing of the candidacy, after the period, doesn't matter.
Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Manila Mayor Isco Moreno says he is pleased that his rival Senator Panfilo Lacson will proceed with his presidential bid for the May elections. Asher Cadapan Jr. tells us why live. Yes, Asher?
Mayor Isco Moreno respects the decision of the Partido Reporma endorsing Vice President Leni Robredo for the country's highest executive position. But Dumagoso felt bad for his rival, Senator Panfilo Ping Lacson, facing the race on his own.
I'm happy that Senator Lacson continue to participate in the campaign as a candidate for president kasi maganda rin siyang option ng ating mga kababayang Pilipino. So, tuloy lang ang laban. I feel bad on the other hand kasi basta tayo, hindi tayo nang iiwan.
With Lacson still in the presidential race, Mayor Isco said voters continue to have another qualified contender for the presidency. Earlier, Mayor Isco visited some residents in Hagonoy, Bulacan who get by with their daily lives while their houses are submerged with water despite the outset of dry season. The 47-year-old presidential candidate explains that the problem has not been resolved from the past several administrations.
Kanina nagtatanong-tanong ako, sabi ko, ngayon lang ba nangyari yan? Sabi nila, hindi po, buong buhay namin ganyan yan. So ibig sabihin, itong mga malalaking politiko rin na ito, na siyang kumakampi doon sa malaking dalawang kandidato, ay pare-pareho ring taong naglingkod na nung araw. Ngunit yung problema ng taong bayan, particular, sa ngayon, as we speak today, timely, ay hindi pa rin na-address.
With this, he urges Filipinos to switch to his candidacy as he plans to bring relief, especially to the lives of poor and helpless people deprived by government's aid.
But I will make sure sa mga taga-Kalumpit o mga taga-Hagonoy o iba pang bahagi ng Bulacan na maaari kong makita na sa ganong karimari-marim na sitwasyon ng baha sa tag-araw at baha araw-araw, bibigyan ko po ng tuldok yung habang buhay nyo ng pinoproblema.
Mariel, the Partido Acción Democrático will be conducting their campaign rally in Batangas for the first time tomorrow. Mariel?
Thank you. Asher Cadapan Jr. reporting live from Quezon City.
Meanwhile, retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio called for the Bureau of Internal Revenue to file a criminal case against the Marcos family for allegedly failing to pay the 203 billion peso estate tax debt. Nel Maribuhok explains why.
Retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio explained that Marcoses can be jailed for failure to settle the estate tax debt because there is a legal basis under the country's tax code.
And under Section 255 of the tax code says, if you are legally obliged to pay the tax and you willfully refuse to pay the tax, you are criminally liable up to 10 years imprisonment.
Carpio added that the heirs of the Marcos are primarily liable to pay the state tax because they are in control of the assets of the state. So he urged the Bureau of Internal Revenue to file cases against the Marcoses.
The BIR, if it wants to now, it can file a criminal case. And I think it's time because 25 years almost a quarter of a century, they have not paid the tax. Ano pang iniintay ng BIR?
The former SC Justice emphasized the urgency of the issue because if Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. wins in May 2022 elections, there will be a presidential immunity.
former Kim Menares said that probably we cannot sue him during that time that if he becomes president for 6 years, because the president is immune from all kinds of suit under several decisions of the Supreme Court.
The camp of Marcos has yet to comment regarding the latest pronouncement of Carpio. But Marcos Jr. spokesperson attorney Vic Rodriguez has claimed the pieces of property which were the subject of the tax case were still under litigation. Last week, Marcos Jr. commented on the issue, claiming it as fake news.
Well, there's a lot of fake news involved there. Let's leave it to the lawyers to discuss it, because yung mga the so-called facts that they quote are not facts at all. They are just presumption. They are not familiar with the cases, or they choose not to be familiar with the cases. So yeah, it's in the courts. In my case, whatever the courts order me to do, I will do.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Team of Vice Presidential candidate Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio will begin changing their campaign strategy beginning next month. Janice Inhente reports why.
Vice Presidential candidate Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio wants to reach more places as the local campaign period begins tomorrow. April is the last month for candidates of national positions to conduct campaign sortie before the 2022 election on May 9.
Sa side po ng team namin, meron pong desisyon na mag-change po ng strategy ng pangangampanya pagdating po ng April. So ito po yung third phase ng aming pangangampanya. It will be equal parts online campaigning and face-to-face campaigning.
The BBM Sara tandem explained the purpose of their separate campaign is to speed up and get more support across the country. Mayor Inday Sara campaigned alone today in Santa Cruz, Laguna to seek the support of voters for unity. Alongside with her visit, Laguna Provincial Governor Ramil Hernandez announced that Mayor Sara has been adopted daughter of the province and shows full support on her VP race.
Nagpapasalamat po ako sa provincial government ng Laguna sa kanila pong pag-declare of me as an adopted daughter of the province of Laguna, and it is an honor to be adopted.
Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, has now directed the National Privacy Commission to conduct an investigation if there was indeed a violation or breach on Smartmatic system. Meanwhile, the palace reminds the public and candidates to continue following health protocols ahead of the local election campaign period. Rosalie Cause reports.
The Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, is coordinating with the Commission on Elections and the National Bureau of Investigation on the alleged serious data breach in Smartmatic, the voting system supplier for the 2022 elections. The DICT also has directed the National Privacy Commission to investigate the issue and ensure those who violated the data privacy rights will be held liable.
Inatasan na rin natin ng DICT ang ating National Privacy Commission na ipagpatuloy ang pagsiyasat sa issue upang tiyaking managot sa mga data privacy ang data privacy officer ng Smartmatic kung sakaling may paglabag ito.
During a hearing of the Senate Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation, chaired by Senator Amy Marcos, it was found out that a contractual employee of Smartmatic had an access with very confidential digital data and was able to give remote access to a certain group.
Kung kinakailangan na ihabla at kasuhan ang sino man sa pangyayaring ito, handa tayong gawin yan.
COMELEC said it is already taking action on the issue while the NBI is already investigating it. Meanwhile, Malacanang appealed to candidates and the general public to strictly comply with the health and safety protocols as well as the campaign guidelines set by the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC. The campaign period for locally elected positions commences tomorrow, March 25. According to Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Presidential Communications Secretary Martin Andanar, safety measures must be strictly observed in the conduct of political activities, including campaign rallies and in-person campaigning. Meanwhile, the palace reiterated that despite the start of the campaign period, the government will not slow down its COVID-19 vaccination drive and targets to fully vaccinate 90 million Filipinos before President Rodrigo Duterte steps down from office in June 2022. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, warns the public against candidates distributing voters' information sheet for the 2022 elections. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Commission on Elections will distribute the voters' information sheet, or VIS, to the public so as not to politicize it. VIS serves as guide for voters, which contains necessary information such as the voter's name, address, the precinct, and the place where he or she is registered. Thus, Commissioner George Erwin Garcia stresses they will not allow politicians or candidates to distribute the VIS.
We are doing this simply because, number one, even before the call of several society groups and interest groups, pinlano na rin talaga natin to erase any doubt, especially during the time that as we are admitting naman, meron talagang panahon na wala tayong observers and watchers in view of the pandemic situation.
The information sheets are ready for distribution in the next few days. Based on Republic Act No. 7904, the COMELEC must provide all registered voters through registered mail with a voter information sheet at least 30 days before an election. Meanwhile, the poll body asks all candidates and their supporters to strictly follow the minimum public health standards as the local campaign period will start tomorrow, March 25.
Pinapakiusap po natin sa ating mga kandidato. Kami naman po mga nasa COMELEC, napansin nyo naman po, nakinig kami sa inyong mga panawagan na medyo magluwag naman. Tama po naman yon dahil tayo naman ay naka-level 1.
Candidates are also advised to observe proper areas for election propaganda materials or campaign materials. Public spaces are strictly prohibited for campaign posters except in private properties due to a recent Temporary Restraining Order or TRO issued by the Supreme Court.
Ang advice ko po sa mga politiko, sa mga kandidato, sa mga nag-operation na dikit nila, huwag na po sa public place, automatic po sayang lang matatanggal. Subalit, kinikilala namin ang Supreme Court TRO, and therefore, yung private properties po will be highly respected.
The local campaign will run until May 7, 2022 or 2 days prior to the elections. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police will deploy 4,000 police officers in different campaign activities in Metro Manila beginning tomorrow. Leah Ilagan will tell us why.
The National Capital Region Police Office wants to ensure the success and achieve zero election-related incidents during the start of the campaign period for locally elected positions. NCRPO spokesperson Police Lieutenant Colonel Jenny Texon said at least 4,000 policemen will be deployed in various areas in Metro Manila.
Ang PNP po ay nandyan para masiguro po na talagang magiging matiwasay yung maintenance of peace and order naman ang sa atin dyan, ma'am, at hindi po tayo dapat sumama sa anumang pagrarally, kundi tayo ay doon sa pagpapaimplementar po ng seguridad ng maintenance ng peace and order kung saan magkakaroon po ng mga pagtitipon, pagpupulong, mapakaraban pong man yan, ma'am, meeting de avance at kung ano pa pang aktibidad na gagawin po ng ating mga kandidato po.
The NCRPO appeals to candidates and their supporters to adhere to the COMELEC's campaign protocols against COVID-19.
So yung laban naman po kasi natin dito, ma'am, sa COVID-19 natin kinakaharap ay laban po yan ng lahat, hindi lang po ng ating gobyerno or yung mga ahensya na nanguna, kundi tayo mismo na mga mamayan, magkipagtulungan na lang po tayo at sa mga kandidato naman po, you should be responsible enough para po sa inyong mga kasamahan, sa inyong mga supporters.
Police presence will also be maximized in areas of convergence in Metro Manila.
dapat po yung ating mga kapulisan, they should be visible in all our streets, ma'am. Hindi lang po sila focus dito sa mga lugar kung saan nandun po yung ating mga candidates, bagkos pati rin po, ma'am, dun sa mga lugar na malimit pong puntahan kung saan nagpupunta yung ating mga kababayan.
The NCRPO spokesperson added that there is no threat being monitored for the campaign period. The NCRPO urged the cooperation of the public to remain vigilant and immediately report any suspicious activities in their area. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Call center workers are calling on the Department of Finance to extend the work from home setup. According to the Alliance of Call Center Workers, several of their members might resign if the work from home setup in business process outsourcing or BPO companies will not be extended. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
Call center workers might need time to adjust before they can work on-site. The threat of COVID-19 is also present, and working in offices might increase the risk of getting infected by the virus. Based on a poll conducted among members of the Alliance of Call Center Workers, 156 of them said they will resign if the work-from-home setup will no longer be available. 117 are undecided, whilst 37 said they will not resign.
There's a significant number of workers na willing na mag-resign. Kasi kumbaga it's not really mass resign as in protesta, pero mass resignation as in hindi magiging madali sa kanila yung transition to work on-site.
Beginning April 1, workers in BPO companies will begin working on-site after the Department of Finance released a return-to-work order. The DOF previously said on-site work is necessary in the economic recovery, particularly in boosting micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSMEs. The department also clarified that no one is prohibiting BPO companies to implement work-from-home setups. However, they have to give up their tax incentives as stated by the law.
Isang binigay po na reason ni Secretary Dominguez ay yung to promote the growth of MSMEs. But the thing is, when we are in PESA zones where BPOs reside, I guess alam naman natin lahat, like let's say BGC, Eastwood, madalang dyan yung yung mga MSMEs. Kung tutuusin, mas madalas pa nga na tinatangkilik namin yung mga MSMEs kapag nasa bahay kami.
Meanwhile, the Department of Labor and Employment previously reiterated that workers cannot lose their jobs or face penalties if they opt to work from home. The Alliance of Call Center Workers also said they are coordinating with the Labor Department to discuss possible solutions to the issue. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Metropolitan Manila Development Authority announces that provincial buses will be allowed to enter EDSA starting 10 p.m. tonight. JP Nunez will tell us why.
With the expiration of Interagency Task Force on Traffic or IAC Resolution Number 101, which prohibits provincial buses along EDSA due to preventive health measures, starting tonight, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority will allow provincial buses as part of gradually easing of COVID-19 restriction. MMDA Chairman Armando Artes announces that the DOTR and LTFRB allowed the agency to conduct a 2-week dry run of gradually allowing provincial buses along EDSA.
Ito po ay trial period lang. Binigyan po tayo ng 2 weeks ng DOTR at LTFRB para mag-conduct po ng dry run dito po sa pagpasok ng provincial buses dahil kailangan po natin tandaan na ang polisiya po ng ating pamahalaan ay towards ITX na or yung integrated terminal.
Provincial buses will only be allowed for a window period of time from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. to avoid congestion of traffic. There will also be designated lanes for provincial bus. MMDA clarifies that EDSA carousel operation for Metro Manila travel will still remain as of this moment. Meanwhile, the 3-day traffic summit organized by MMDA to convene with transport group, LGUs and private sector for a unified and multi-sectoral scheme to address traffic has concluded. Among the suggestions are the daylight saving time, which will adjust the office hours of government agencies. MMDA explains this will spread out the number of commuters and private vehicle cramming during rush hour. With the daylight saving time from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. government office hours, it will be adjusted to 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Isa sa mga pinopropose po na solusyon para makabawas ng traffic ay yung tinatawag na daylight saving time. Siguro po para ma-spread yung mga tao at yung ating mga mananakay sa iba't ibang oras, like baka daw po pwede na ang pasok sa gobyerno at yung mga transaksyon sa gobyerno ay simula ng 7 o'clock at mag-end ng 4 o'clock. Yan pong isang oras na adjustment na yan sa pasok po sa gobyerno ay malaking bagay.
The MMDA said that EDSA traffic volume has not reached pre-pandemic level of more than 400,000 daily average vehicle as of this moment. It decreased to 370,000 from 390,000, which probably affected by the big-time increase of oil price hike. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
A recent study shows that Sinovac's COVID-19 vaccine gives children protection against COVID-19 variants. The vaccine expert panel also said Sinovac showed high effectiveness against hospitalization and ICU admission. Aiko Miguel reports.
A recent study assessed the safety and immune response of Sinovac's vaccine in healthy children and adolescents in Chile. The data was collected from 963 Chilean children aged 3 to 17 immunized with Sinovac in a 4-week interval. Dr. Maria Liza Antoinette Gonzalez of the Philippine Pediatric Society and a pediatric infectious specialist said that Sinovac gives minors mild or modest protection against COVID-19 variants.
Ito yung third study against Omicron and Delta. So, merong mild or modest protection against these variants. But at least we know na meron neutralizing antibodies, both neutralizing antibodies as well as T-cell responses against these two variants.
Dr. Gonzalez added, further studies are still needed to prove its efficacy of the Chinese vaccine against emerging variants. Meanwhile, vaccine expert panel chairperson and technical working group for COVID-19 vaccines, Dr. Nina Gloriani said that real-world data showed that Sinovac can really protect children from severe effects of COVID-19.
Nag-include din sila, although hindi nila in-specify masyado, kung anong mga comorbidities meron yung mga bata, but they were medically stable. Stable, otherwise good, healthy at the time of the clinical trial. And actually, in fact, the ones with the comorbidities will be the ones who will benefit most.
Dr. Gloriani also explained there's no difference in the formulation and dosage of Sinovac's vaccine for adults and minors. The DOH is set to issue the guidelines on the use of Sinovac for 6 to 17 years old in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, Moderna is hoping to get the green light to administer a pediatric low-dose COVID-19 vaccine for babies, toddlers, and preschoolers after initial results from the company's large final stage clinical trial. Marvin Finn will give us the details live. Yes, Marvin, go ahead.
Ariel, Moderna will submit a request to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and other global regulators in the coming weeks for authorization of its 2-dose 25 microgram COVID-19 vaccine for children aged 6 months to under 6 years of age. This after the pediatric doses showed a robust neutralizing antibody response similar to that of adults, with a favorable safety profile, the company said in a statement. The Moderna shot was 44% effective against Omicron infection for the children aged 6 months to 2 years old, and 38% effective for those aged 3 to 6. According to Moderna's CEO Stefan Bancel, this is positive news for parents of the nation's 18 million children under 5 who have anxiously awaited protection and been continuously disappointed by setbacks and confusion over which shots might work and when. The recently completed trials enrolled 6,700 participants aged 6 months to 6 years old, and another group of around 5,000 aged 6 to 17 were also involved. Meanwhile, it is still unclear if the FDA and CDC will be willing to accept Moderna's efficacy rate, while various studies are seeking to determine whether the existing vaccines can be reconfigured to provide more protection against Omicron and the BA2 subvariant. Marielle?
Marvy, has Moderna reported any side effects to the children after they tested the low-dose COVID-19 vaccines?
Marielle, there were no severe cases flagged for either vaccine or placebo groups. No new side effects or safety issues were identified in the study, and no cases of heart inflammation, which is a rare side effect linked to mRNA vaccines like Moderna's, in older kids were seen, though they found that fever occurred in about 17% of the youngest age group and 15% of the slightly older ones. Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Marvidal Finn, reporting live from Australia.
Confirmed cases of COVID-19 worldwide have risen again for a second consecutive week after a steady decrease since the end of January. The World Health Organization reported a 7% increase in last week due to the more infectious Omicron variant and its subvariant BA.2. The Western Pacific region reported a 21% increase in weekly cases, while the Eastern Mediterranean, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Americas have reported a decrease in weekly cases. The European region remained stable compared to the previous week. Meanwhile, despite the rising cases, the number of new deaths decreased by 23% compared to the previous week, according to the WHO. World Health Organization warns that the number should be interpreted with caution, as many countries are changing their testing methods, resulting in lower number of tests and lower cases detected.
Leaders of North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, are likely to agree to send more assistance to Ukraine as Russia's invasion to Ukraine continues on its 5th week. Charis Longbowen will tell us why live. Yes, Charis, go ahead.
Good evening, Marielle. The alliance will likely to send 4 new multinational battle troops on the eastern flank of Ukraine on top of 4 existing combat units already deployed, according to NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. Currently, Ukraine's eastern border has some 40,000 troops spread from the Baltic to the Black Sea, and 100,000 of U.S. troops in Europe, both at heightened readiness, backed by major air and naval power. In a pre-summit press conference on the war on Ukraine, Stoltenberg said he expects that the alliance will also agree on providing additional equipment that will help boost Ukraine's chemical and nuclear defenses.
The first step is the deployment of 4 new NATO battle groups in Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia. I expect allies will agree to provide additional support, including cybersecurity assistance, as well as equipment to help Ukraine protect against chemical, biological, and radiological and nuclear threats.
NATO also warned Russia against using any nuclear or chemical weapons in its invasion of Ukraine, which would change the nature of conflict and a violation of international law. The Ukraine crisis had shown that NATO must reset its deterrence and defense posture for the longer term, and that Russia's actions had become the new normal for our security. An estimated 7,000 to 15,000 Russian soldiers have died in 4 weeks since Moscow's invasion. It's almost the same number of Russian soldiers killed over 10 years in Afghanistan. This estimate was based on data from Ukrainian authorities and intelligence gathered from open sources. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made a formal determination that Russian forces had committed war crimes in Ukraine, with reports of indiscriminate attacks and attacks deliberately targeting civilians in schools, hospitals, apartment buildings, and shopping centers. Marielle?
Thank you, Charis Longbowen, reporting live.
Early weather warnings may become accessible to the world as the United Nations announces their plan within the next 5 years. Paul Gatchalian will give us the details live. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
William, as the climate crisis remains rampant and natural disasters become more frequent, the need for warning systems to alert people is essential to help ensure safety among communities that lack access.
This is unacceptable, particularly with climate impacts sure to get even worse. Early warnings and action save lives. To that end, today I announced the United Nations will spearhead new action to ensure every person on Earth is protected by early warning systems within 5 years.
Unlike developing countries and states, a third of the world is not able to access useful warning systems. And as a result of inconsistent weather warning systems, wherein some are being issued late or in some cases no warnings are broadcasted, countries become prone to disasters and tragedies that extreme weather events cause. In fact, the WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, has reported that climate-related death rates tally up to 115 deaths a day over the past 50 years due to the lack of weather warnings. Meanwhile, Secretary General Guterres tasked WMO with leading the project and present an action plan at the next UN Climate Conference in Egypt on November this year.
We must boost the power of prediction for everyone and build their capacity to act. On this World Meteorological Day, let us recognize the value of early warnings and early action as critical tools to reduce disaster risk and support climate adaptation. Early warning systems save lives. Let us ensure that they are working for everyone.
Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you very much. Paul Gatchalian reporting live from New Zealand.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word giving glory to God from the book of Proverbs, chapter 17, verse 27. It says, "He that had knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit." And those are the reasons behind the news, March 24, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Maria Latoza reporting live from Perth, Australia.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.